Hi and welcome to today's vlog. Today I am talking about what you can expect if you have to have a PIP or personal independence payment assessment over the telephone. So this is specifically, the one I had was specifically because I'm already in receipt of personal independence payments. It is due for a review, so I have filled in all my review forms, I've sent them off, and now I need to have a telephone assessment. So at the moment, because of COVID, they're trying to do all of their assessments via telephone. So if you have applied for or requested a renewal, chances are you are going to have a telephone assessment at some point. There is, I think, quite a hefty backlog. My review is due in March, it is now November, so I think there is a bit of a backlog, but don't worry, they will not stop your money. So if you're already in receipt of personal independence payments, they will not stop your money until the final decision has been made, and then obviously if the decision is that you don't need PIP, it will be stopped. If the decision is it carries on or you're granted a higher award, then that's what will happen. If you have applied for PIP for the first time, you will have your money backdated. First things first, like I said, I filled out all my forms way back in, well, February, because that was when they sent the forms to me. They're supposed to send the forms to you quite far in advance, so when your review date is, when your end date is, they're supposed to have already sent the forms to you in advance so that you can fill them in well in time for the deadline. Anyway, I filled out my forms, I got them back in time, no problem, didn't hear any more about it until a couple of weeks ago when I received a text message which said, and it says, "This is a message from Independent Assessment Services about your PIP claim. A telephone consultation has been booked for you on Tuesday 17th November at 10:50 AM. We will call you at your appointment time. We do not need to see you in person. You will receive an appointment letter from us, and you can find out more on our website, mypipassessment.co.uk. If you can't make this appointment, please contact us straight away," and then there's a number to call. So I got that call, let's look at the date, about 2 weeks before the date of the assessment, the telephone assessment, and then I had a follow-up letter as well which basically confirmed the exact same details of the website to go to. I would recommend heading to the website, which I will pop a link below anyway, but head to that website. It's got some information, it tells you what you can expect, it tells you the type of person that's going to call you. It's just got some information on there that will be useful to you, so if you have to do this, make sure you check the website out. And that was it. So I sat back to wait for my call. I then had a telephone call on Monday morning from a withheld number, but it was a woman from the PIP, from the assessment services, to remind me that I had a telephone call booked, and she asked me to make a note that I should have my phone fully charged, I should be somewhere comfortable, and that they would call me from a withheld number, so it was important that I answered. She confirmed the time again, confirmed that I was able to answer the phone at that time, and that was that. Rocco shouting at me. Yeah, so that was that really. It says it tells you in the letter that comes about your appointment, if you want to have this session recorded, it explains how you can go about that. You are allowed to have somebody present with you in the room when the telephone call happens, so yeah, that's fine, that's no problem, but if you want to record it, you do have to make prior arrangements. But all of that information is on their website, and it is on the appointment letter that they send you, so make sure you read all of that really carefully. I sat by my phone about 20 minutes before my appointment time, because I've got a lot of telephone consultations from various departments of the hospital, and sometimes they do call early. So at 10:30, 20 minutes before my appointment time, I made sure I was sat down comfortably, that I had a drink and that my phone was fully charged. I also had a copy of my answers from the assessment paperwork that I filled out, and that is my top tip. Make sure you've got that paperwork in front of you, because your assessor, will have read it, they will refer to it, and they will ask you questions about it. So make sure you've got that paperwork in front of you so you can refresh your memory. So I had all of that around me. I also had the company of 2 cats, which is always helpful. And at bang on 10 to 11, I received my phone call. She introduced herself, she confirmed who I was, she asked me my address and my date of birth to confirm my identity. What's the matter? So after confirming my identity, she just ran through a little bit how it would work. Basically, she was going to ask me questions about my medications. She would run through my conditions, how each of those affected me. She would like I said, basically go through the form, how I answered all the questions, and just ask for further information or get me to clarify information that I'd already put on the form. At the end, I would have an opportunity to add anything else, should I so wish. So yeah, she was a nice lady. I didn't have any problems with her. She seemed to understand and get what I was saying. I was able to understand her. So yeah, it was fine. She asked me, I just want to point out some of the questions she asked me, because I feel like some of the questions are possibly designed to try and catch you out a little bit. So I just wanted to talk about some of the weirder questions that she asked me that I didn't really think were relevant. So she asked if we had any pets in the house, to which I replied yes, we have 4. And then she asked lots of questions about who looks after them, who feeds them, who cleans up after them. And I suspect if I had a dog, she'd ask who walked them. Now, I did feel a little bit like that question was designed to catch you out, like, what if you can feed your cat? How disabled are you, young lady? So that was a little bit weird. So don't lie, I'm not condoning lying, but be careful how you answer questions like that. Just in case I'm not being really paranoid and that question is designed to catch you up. So just be careful how you answer questions about your pets. She asked a lot about the house layout. Like how do I get from one room to another, which I suppose makes sense if you've got a really big house that you can jog up and down. Lots of stairs. I can see where they're coming from, but I also don't see why, just because I'm disabled, I can't live in a big house with lots of stairs. Yeah, she asked me if I was right or left-handed, which, again, how is that at all relevant? I should have told her that I have to check whether I'm right or left-handed, because I don't know my left from my right. Maybe I would have got extra points for that, I don't know. She asked me lots of questions about how many steps there were to things. So not stairs, how many actual walking footsteps it was to things. So how many steps was it from the pavement to my front door? How many steps was it from the doctor's surgery, where I got dropped off at the doctor's surgery, into the doctor's surgery? How many steps was it from the car park in the hospital to the actual department? Which again, why is that relevant? Why is it relevant? I don't understand. She asked me if I worked and what I did, and what adjustments did I have at work. I at work already have a reasonable adjustments policy in place, so that covers my disability. It was set up between myself, my employer, and occupational health. It's really robust, so I do have adjustments in place at work, and that was all fine. She noted all of that, but then she wanted to know how many steps was it. How many steps was it from where I got dropped off to inside the building? How many steps was it to the photocopier? How many steps was it to the toilet? Why does that matter? I don't know. I think they're trying to gauge how far you can walk, I think was what she was trying to gauge from those questions. I had already explained at length that I cannot walk far. I walk really slowly. I have to stop every 5 minutes, and the more I walk, the longer I have to stop for each time. I'd already explained all of that. She asked do I go out for leisure walks? If I do, where do I go? How far are they? How far can I walk on those leisure walks? What kind of terrain is it? Which, again, I think they're just trying to find out how far and how well you can walk. But it just feels a bit like, well, if you can walk outside, how disabled are you? I don't know. A little bit weird. One of the questions they ask, I think, is to how much, it's not personal care, but like, do you need to care in specific departments? So do I have my own bank account? Can I shop online? Am I safe to shop online? Can I remember to do the bills? That sort of stuff, which, again, is it relevant? I suppose, actually, to be fair to a lot of people, that is a very relevant part of their assessment. If they can't manage their own money and someone has to do that for them, that's really important. So yeah, there were a couple of questions and I was a bit like, well, why are you asking me that? But like I said, it all went smoothly. She went through each question. If I didn't understand what she was asking me, I would ask her to rephrase it, and she was happy to do that. So that was really good. So all in all, the assessment went absolutely fine, no problems. I'm going to share with you now some of my top tips for when you have your assessment. Just things that it's worthwhile being aware of. So first up, it is important to know that you might be on speakerphone. I think if they're going to put you on speakerphone, they have to ask you if that's okay. From the noise I could hear and the way the lady was talking to me, I felt like she had a headset on. I don't think she had me on speakerphone. She certainly didn't ask if I was happy to be on speakerphone. So just be aware you might be on speakerphone, and you may hear noises in the background because, like so many of us, a lot of these assessors are working from home at the moment. So they do have their household noise going on around them. And I've read a lot of scary horror stories about people's telephone assessments where they heard other people talking and laughing or shushing in the background. Or I read one where someone's husband came in and said, "Would you like a cup of tea, love?" Which is concerning, because if you're on speakerphone and you are pouring out your intimate details of your disability and somebody else is in the room to hear them, that feels a little bit iffy. So just be aware that they might have you on speakerphone. If you aren't comfortable with the noises that you can hear in the background, if you're finding them distracting, if it is taking away from your assessment, then you are completely within your rights to stop the assessment and ask her to call you back at another time, or ask for someone else to call you. You're completely within your right to do that. So if you feel uncomfortable, please, please, please let them know that you're feeling uncomfortable. Again, I have read lots of horror stories where people said, well, they then said that I had to terminate the call, they therefore couldn't carry on the call, so they stopped my benefits. I think that is very much worst case scenario, and if you aren't comfortable with the distractions that you might be hearing on the other end of the phone, I think it's really important for you to make that known. Don't suffer, don't let it bother you, don't do badly on your assessment because of a distraction that you could easily sort out by asking them to call you back at another time. So I think that's really important. You should be aware that you'll probably hear them typing. I read a lot of horror stories about people that were very loud typers. You could hear her typing, but it didn't bother me personally. But again, like I said, if at any point you are uncomfortable with what you can hear on the other end of the phone, tell them and let them know. So that's my first tip. I would say when they ask you a question, give yourself time to think about the answer. Don't be rushed into an answer. You've got plenty of time on that telephone. It's not your phone bill, it's theirs. So give yourself the time you need to answer each question how it should be answered. So don't rush into an answer. Think about it. If you have to think about it, think about it. If you've got to refer back to your paperwork, refer back to your paperwork. You take as long as you need for that call. That's my next tip. I would also recommend having a pen and just a piece of paper with you. Just so you can make any note. If you want to make any notes about the call, you can. If you found that the assessor's manner was rude or abrupt or uncaring or dismissive, make a note of it. If you thought there were questions she asked you that were really weird, make a note of it. If she put words into your mouth and you felt she changed what you were saying, make a note of it, write it down, because you can complain, you can talk to other people about this afterwards. So I think it's just really handy to have a pen and a piece of paper handy so you can make notes if you feel you need to. I wrote down some of the questions that I thought were a bit weird, so I could talk to you about them and so that I could talk to my husband afterwards. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's your assessment. You need to be comfortable with your answers. You need to be comfortable with who you're talking to. Don't be embarrassed about your answers. These assessments are very much, especially now, based on what you say to them and their interpretation of what you say to them. So if you can only walk a very short distance, make it very clear that you can only walk a short distance. And make sure you're happy with your answers. She does, at the end, she gave me an opportunity to add anything or say anything that might have been missed out of the assessment. I pointed out to her that my disability is degenerative. It's never, ever, ever going to get better. It is only going to get worse, and it has gotten significantly worse over the last 5 years. My next tip is don't stress about it. Don't worry about it. I know it's a super stressful, anxiety-inducing thing. A lot of people hate talking on the telephone, so this is literally their worst nightmare. I get that, but this assessment, it's really important that you do it, and it's really important that you get your issues and your needs across. So whilst it is very scary and anxiety-inducing, I would say do a little bit of research, have a look online, see what other people's experiences were. But bear in mind, 99% of the experiences that you read online are worst case horror stories. People don't tend to talk online about the good experiences they've had from these assessments. And people have, despite what you read and despite what people say, there are people out there that do benefit from this system, and this system works for them. I am fully aware that for a lot of people this system does not work and it is flawed. I know that, but just be wary. And I said this when I talked about PIP assessments a long time ago. I'll link that video below. There are a lot of horror stories out there. Take them with a pinch of salt. People type these things when they're angry, when it's fresh in their mind. And perhaps when they've calmed down and thought about it, it might not have been as bad as they thought it was. I'm not trying to take anything away from anyone. I don't want you to be scared that the worst is going to happen when it comes to your telephone assessment. My experience of the assessment was good. The lady I spoke to listened to me. There were no distractions on the telephone. I could hear her, she could hear me. She made notes of, she typed, I could hear her typing as I talked, so she was making notes of everything I said. She got me to clarify some things, I asked her to clarify some things. For me personally, it was a really good experience. And I have mentioned some of the bad points, like the weird questions she asked me. The way she really wanted me to drill down into exactly how far I could walk. All in all, it was fairly stress-free. So yeah, don't worry about it. Don't stress about it. It is what it is. And I will say this, if your assessment goes badly and you aren't awarded, or if your PIP isn't renewed, you can appeal it. So this assessment isn't last chance saloon. Don't worry about it. Really don't. You don't need to. After she finished the assessment, she explained that she would type a report up in the next couple of days. That report would then go on to a case manager at the Department for Work and Pensions, and then a decision would be made as to whether my PIP would be renewed or not. This process can take 8 weeks, she told me, and I asked her to clarify that in those 8 weeks would my benefit be stopped at all. She said no, absolutely not. This is just a review at the moment, and until somebody makes a decision that is a no, my benefits will not be stopped. So that's really good. So don't worry that you're going to lose your benefits after this assessment. The decision process takes 8 weeks, so for those 8 weeks you will still be paid, so don't worry about that either. And yeah, that was the whole process really. Since I put the telephone down, I have spent a lot of time sitting here thinking, oh, did I answer that question right? Did I get myself across enough? Did she understand what I was saying? Have I answered that question wrong? Did I slip up? Did I answer some of the questions wrong and now I'm not going to get my award? I have worried about it a little bit. A lot. I worry about things, pointless things. It's done now. The phone conversation is over and done with. I can't change my answers. I can't change what she wrote. I don't know what she wrote at the moment. But side note, you can request a copy of her report as soon as 3 days after your phone call. So 3 days after your phone call, you can request a copy of her report so you can read what she wrote, should you so wish. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do that. And information and details on how you can request that report are on the PIP assessment website, which I will link, which I mentioned earlier, which I'll link below. Once you've had your assessment, it's done. It's out of your mind. You don't need to think about it until a letter comes to you to tell you whether or not your PIP is being renewed. So absolutely don't sit here for the next 8 weeks worrying about it. Just cross the bridge when you come to it. That is what to expect from a telephone assessment. I've tried to be really honest. I've tried to be concise. I obviously can only speak from my own experience. And like I said, make sure you've got your phone fully charged. The calls can last up to an hour. Mine was just under an hour. I read some experiences where people's had been up to 2 hours and longer. So just make sure you've got the time, you're sat somewhere comfortable, you've got a drink, your phone's fully charged. Just make sure you've got that time out somewhere quiet that you can talk to this person openly and honestly about your conditions. That's all you really need to do to prepare for it. I will also point out that sometimes these telephone consultations can run late. So they give you an appointment time, and I think in my letter it said that to sort of allow some time after that appointment time, because if your assessor is running late, then your call will be running late. So bear that in mind. I would say anything that if you're still waiting for a call more than half an hour later, call the number on the letter and tell them that you have not yet had your assessment, and keep calling them until somebody calls you back. I did read a couple of instances where the call was late, and when they called sort of an hour and a half later to say I haven't had a call yet, it had already been passed apparently back to the DWP saying that they never answered, so we couldn't do the assessment, and then the process had to be started again. I don't know how often that happens, but to cover your own back, if you are still waiting for your call 30 minutes after your appointment time, call the number on the letter, tell them, and keep calling them until somebody calls you back. Make sure there's a record of it on the system that you called them because they hadn't called you. I was lucky in that my assessor called me bang on my appointment time, but if yours doesn't, call them and tell them. I think that's really important. yeah, that's all I have to say about it, really. Try not to worry about it, try not to stress about it. You've already done the really hard work by filling in all that paperwork. So this kind of is the easy part, because you've got a copy, like I said, have a copy of what you wrote on that form in front of you so that you know what you said. You can refer back to it, because your assessor will be referring back to it as well. So just keep a hold of that to refresh your memory. Make sure you've got a list of your medications with you. Make sure you've got a list of your conditions with you, just to make it easier on yourself, to make sure everything that you want covered and noted is covered and noted. Yeah, that's it really. I am obviously only talking about a telephone assessment in terms of a review. I do not know what a telephone assessment would be like if you have just applied for the first time. When I applied for the first time, I had to go to a face-to-face assessment. The lady that I spoke to on the phone did explain that if I needed a physical examination at some point, that would be arranged separately, although I think at the moment a face-to-face appointment is highly unlikely, and there is a really big push to get all these assessments done by telephone. Just try not to worry, I think, is my main advice. Hopefully I have explained to you a little bit about what your assessment might be like. Hopefully I have given you some of the good points and the bad points about it, and hopefully if you're due an assessment you will find this video helpful. If you've got any questions, hello bees, if you've got any questions, please drop me a comment below and ask away. I will answer anything that I can. If I know the answer, I will answer it. If I don't know the answer, I will try to find out for you. So if you've got any questions about telephone assessments, drop me a comment below and I will get back to you. As always, thank you for watching. If you like this video, then give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will be back soon with another video.